since this is Monday afternoon, they're going to be the views of Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster, and hopefully my producer will put Bob through, and we can begin to get his wisdom and analysis of what's going on. Now, we've pointed out a number of times to you that one of the big problems is that the Federal Reserve System is making money readily available to the large banks, so they can borrow money there at 0.25% interest and then lend it back to the government at 3% interest or invest in the stock market. But why doesn't the Fed tell the big banks that they've got to lend it to industry to get the economy going? The small banks, of course, are not lending because for the first time in history, they're actually allowed to get interest by depositing their money with the Federal Reserve System rather than lending it out. So why should they take a chance on lending money when they draw interest? But why is the government doing this? Well, the reason the government's doing this is because there's so much money out there that if the Federal Reserve allowed this money to go into circulation, we'd have rampant inflation, but it is really tying the money up so it's not in the economy, and it's just sitting there. One of the big problems we've got is, I said we're going to have $1.5 trillion debt this coming year. We got a lot of the big corporations, about $1 trillion in debt. We've got a commercial property market that has about $1 trillion in deficits, and then of course we're allowing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and FHA to write subprime mortgages again and building up for another housing collapse at the end of next year. Why, after having a disastrous bubble from housing because of subprime mortgages, would you turn right around and encourage writing subprime mortgages again? And so the government's now guaranteed it'll pick up all of the debt of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. It's going to reward the heads of those companies for their poor performance. Hi, Bob. How are you doing?
Well, pretty good. And if you keep on telling the truth like that, I think maybe some people will come out of denial.
Well, I don't know. I want you to pick up and tell our listeners what's going on, and I think it's so vital that they understand they're not getting the truth in the regular media. We are in real trouble. Yes, things seem to be a little bit better right now, but I said none of the major problems have been addressed. And, the reason things are better because they just poured, hundreds of billions of dollars in the economy, but they can't keep doing that indefinitely, can they?
No, they can't. And one of the things that you said caught my ear, and that was the reduction in loans to small and medium-sized businesses as well as individuals. And I was told by someone in Washington just recently, among other things, reasons why banks aren't lending, which you cited, is that behind this, and I have to use it this way, behind this socialist, Marxist, fascist government, what they want to do, I've been told, is to put the small businesses in a position where they're forced to go out of business. They supply between 70 and 90% of all the new jobs in the country. And if they go out of business...
Hold that thought, Bob. We'll be right back here. Well, this is Dr. Stan, and certainly Bob is just saying that as they destroy small businesses intentionally across America, when he says he's talking about the invisible government that really controls our monetary system, and that's why, of course, they're not allowing the lending to small businesses. Why, if you've got a small business, it's almost impossible to get a significant loan today. And so they want to destroy the small businesses so that there won't be the jobs and people have to work for government. And then what was the next point you were going to make, Bob?
I had switched off in a parallel comment that 6.5 years ago I said that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were broke. They were bankrupt. everybody inside the Beltway knew that, but the media wouldn't talk about it because the media is controlled by that group of people. And I said what the intention of the government is, and if you go back and read the books during the 1960s when Stan and I kind of grew up in this whole thought process, you'll find that it was and is now the intention of the power behind government to control 40% of all the housing in the country. And they've accomplished a number of things by creating a real estate bubble, a collapse, and, millions of homes have been lost to banks who resell them for 40 or 50% of what they previously were worth. And the government is ending up with many, many houses, quote, that they don't want, when in fact they really do want them. Because what's going to happen eventually under their desired New World government is that they will be able to control the movement of people. And if they are creating the jobs, they can say, Mr. Jones, we have a job for you with the government in San Francisco, and this is what we're going to pay you. And we have a home there, which the Smith family is living in, and you'll be living with the Smith family because we own that house and we put the Smith family in there. And your wife will be living with the Williams family in Miami, and she'll be working at such and such a place. And your children will be going to school in Ohio at the government grand international school in Ohio. And each year you'll have a vacation on Cape Cod for 2 weeks, and that'll be the end of it. And we haven't decided yet whether we'll allow you to have more children. And this is what they're after. I mean, they've laid it all out. You and I, Stan, have known this for 50 years. We've been talking about it. They're trying to bring it to fruition. And, it's just like when you talk about the health care program, the Kevorkian Health Reform Act, if you may. And one of the main implements of that is people control, the getting rid of useless eaters. As you know, as a doctor, the great preponderance, 80-90% of medical bills in the person's lifetime occur in the last couple of years of their life. And so they are going to do away with people. They're not going to treat them, or they're going to say, look, you're useless and you're going to die anyway, so let us give you a shot and get rid of you. I
think the term is a quality of life. They don't have a very good quality of life, and so we're so compassionate, we're going to simply eliminate them so they'll have a better quality of life.
That's right, and all of these things go together, and in time, people will be told who they can marry, how many children they can have, if any, how the children will be educated, what parts of business or science that they'll go into, and then there will be people who will not be allowed to breed because they don't need ditch diggers and people like that anymore, and so those with arbitrarily IQs of under 100 won't be able to breed. And this is diabolical, but this is what they want to do.
And as incredible as it may seem, they want to control everything right now. They can pretty well control agriculture and business, and so they certainly control fishing, and they control the lumber industry and the energy industry. They won't let us build nuclear power plants. They control mining. They control transportation. They control the airline industry. They're moving to control medicine. How could all of this happen, and where is the outcry from the American people? I mean, it used to be General Motors, now it's Government Motors. Of course, Government Motors now is opening all sorts of plants to create new jobs in China and in India and in Russia. And why are we doing that? General Motors is the largest automotive producer in China today. And certainly they're actually producing more cars in China than we are producing in the United States. I think we produced 8 million this year in the United States. They're producing 11 million cars over in China. And China has become the leading economy in the world as America moves into eclipse. And it's all part of the plan. Where did the money come to build up the economy of China? Why, from American taxpayers, American corporations, and American banks. Go right ahead, Bob.